Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
And now the spiel. NBC News headline. In an unusual statement disputing the CIA and filled with exclamation points, Trump backs Saudi ruler after Khashoggi killing. The only thing unusual is that NBC thinks any of that is unusual. The president expounded, or at least pounded, while some sort of contraption whirled away in the background, as they seem to do whenever the president talks to the press.
Right now, we have oil prices in great shape. I'm not going to destroy the world economy, and I'm not going to destroy the economy for our country by being foolish with Saudi Arabia. So
oil is low. It's actually kind of a drag on the stock market, but overall good for the most of us. With oil this low, though, however, Saudi is much less potent in the world, yet President Trump still obsesses with them, as he obsesses with being on the front page of Time magazine, but he obsesses with the Saudis like it was still 1987. Pretends or has imagined that the Saudis and the Saudi economy is as important to the U.S. economy as it was back in 1987. Actually, he probably thinks it's much more important, as you will soon find out. So the president justified his countenancing of murder, his turning a blind eye toward oppression, his denigration of a CIA report via one four-letter word. And that word is, of course, jobs. Oh, the jobs. The hundreds of thousands of jobs from that huge $110 billion deal President Trump made with the Saudis. Please note, none of the sentence I just said is true. None. First of all, the deal that Trump announced on his first official state visit, the $110 billion deal, the vast majority of it was already on the books before Trump got there. According to William Hartung, the director of the Arms and Security Project at the Center for International Policy, the actual value of arms sales to Riyadh since Trump took office is $14.5 billion. This was confirmed by the U.S. Naval War College professor Jonathan Caverly. Quote, the $110 billion deal is not even remotely solid. The State Department only counts $14.5 billion in implemented sales from the deal. Now, when Mohammed bin Salman visited the White House last year, Trump bragged about all the arms programs that he was dealing with and the attendant jobs they would bring about. And he did so in a way that was probably overly optimistic. But still, because probably his message was scripted, he was using these large displays with photos and reading off of them. But still, he kept it on, I don't know, the normal side of bragging.
$1.4 billion. And what it does is it really means many, many jobs. We're talking about over 40,000 jobs.
40,000 jobs. But then a month ago, when the news of the Saudis murdering Khashoggi surfaced, the number also rose. Quite a bit, in fact.
Thing one tonight, you may remember a thing we did here last week about Donald Trump and a Saudi arms deal that was originally going to create 40,000 jobs. But then every time Trump talked about it, he jacked up that number.
I worked very hard to get the order for the military. It's $110 billion. I believe it's the largest order ever made. It's 450,000 jobs. They have a tremendous order, $110 billion. Every country in the world wanted a piece of that order. It's 500,000 jobs.
We have $450 billion worth of things ordered from a very rich country, Saudi Arabia. 600,000 jobs, maybe more than that. This is equipment and various things ordered from Saudi Arabia. $450 billion. I think it's over 1 million jobs. I think that's over 1 million jobs, 1 million to over 1 million jobs.
As we said last week, all the numbers he had there are questionable. And so today, Reuters got to that question. How many jobs would the arms deal actually create? The answer is somewhere between 0 and 1 million or over 1 million. So after President Trump said the Saudi arms deal would create 1 million to over 1 million jobs, Reuters set out to find out the real answer from the defense contractors who would actually be hiring all those people. Spoiler alert, Trump's numbers and reality are not in the same zip code. Reuters saw an internal document from top defense contractor Lockheed Martin, which, by the way, is profiting off the Saudis' continued war in Yemen, forecasting fewer than 1,000 positions would be created. Lockheed predicted that the deal would also keep up to 18,000 existing U.S. workers busy. But all that's only if the whole package comes together, which experts say is unlikely. Reuters also spoke to a person familiar with the planning of another major contractor, Raytheon, who said if the Saudi order were executed, it could help to sustain about 10,000 U.S. jobs, but the number of new jobs created would be a small percentage of that. Now, you may be wondering, what about adjacent jobs? Well, I'm glad you asked. A research fellow told Reuters the highest multiplier for this type of industry would be about 3.2, and with Reuters' estimate about 20 to 40,000 sustained or new jobs in the defense industry involved in the Saudi deal, that comes to 64 to 128,000 jobs in related industries, bringing the total, again, only if the whole deal goes through, which, by the way, it shouldn't, because the Saudis are currently starving Yemenis to death, to between 84 and 168,000 sustained and new jobs, of which the new jobs are, again, a very small percentage. We have a laugh here at Trump's ridiculous lies from time to time, but in the end, it's important to remember they are, in fact, ridiculous lies.
I think that's over 1 million jobs, 1 million to over 1 million jobs.
I have an alternative explanation to this, and that is that Donald Trump is pulling numbers out of the presidential tuchus. An indication of this wanton and galloping lie is right there in that quote I just played. Remember, he talked about the 600,000 jobs, but also $450 billion in goods. I guess he relies on the fact that no one understands or knows or has at their fingertips these big numbers. This is a laughable claim. Let us look at U.S. exports. Our biggest trading partner is the European Union. And the amount of money that we've exported to them last year, $283 billion. Our second biggest trading partner is China. It's mostly imports, but we exported to China $129 billion. Third is Canada. $282 billion was exported to Canada. So the U.S. will be exporting more to Saudi Arabia than China and Canada combined. Saudi Arabia, a country of 30 million people, thousands of miles away with a per capita income of 20,000 versus the country we share, 3,000, if you want to include Alaska, 4,000 or 5,000 mile border with, where they have a per capita income of 45,000 people, plus the country with 1.38 billion customers. Combine those two, no, Saudi's going to blow them away. And to give you some more context, last year, U.S. exports to Saudi Arabia, it wasn't $450 billion. It wasn't even $350 billion. It wasn't $200. I'll stop there. It was $25 billion. And by the way, the president did say things ordered by Saudi Arabia. So he seemed to be implying goods. And that's just $16 billion. Unless the Saudis will be ordering, 100 pre-made Dallas Cowboy football stadiums. And they might need to, just to store this giant pile of horse shit. None of what we've heard is remotely true. And oh, by the way, for these however many thousand jobs at, I hope, more than 25,000 each, let us just note that the United States is no longer in desperate need of jobs. Some economists think that we might even have unemployment that's too low. Here's Brookings' David Wessel.
20 years ago, they anticipated wages would pick up if unemployment fell much below 5%. Today's consensus of what's known as the natural rate of unemployment, or NIRU for non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment, are around 4.5%, which of course is substantially above today's level.
Let's put aside the acronyms, let's put aside the stats, and let's talk about what's really going on here. Donald Trump, think about this. Donald Trump is saying we must excuse what the Saudis have done, the killing, for American jobs. He puts forward a ridiculous number, but let's say it's his $14.5 billion in actual spending. And also let's note that when we say $14.5 billion, that's not for 1 year. As Defense News reports, the majority of that $14.5 billion, this anti-missile defense system, that is an estimated delivery time of 2023 to 2026. So let's say it leads to, 10,000 jobs at a time when the economy is adding hundreds of thousands of jobs a month. And the price of these jobs, which we as a country don't really need, is a dead journalist. Now, you know what? I think many Americans would take that trade, but it's not a dead journalist. The price is more than one dead journalist. It's the entire war in Yemen, which is official policy, and Mike Pompeo says should stop, but the president cuts him off at the knees. How many people have been killed in Yemen? I'm not even going to talk about the combatants. I think there's actually some legitimacy to Saudi Arabia not wanting the Houthis to be leading Yemen, although think about the costs. 50 to 80,000 dead, thousands of civilian deaths, and Save the Children says 50,000 children died last year of starvation. Often, by the way, we're asked to, consider your role in some international misdeed. Consider the role you play in the system. Blood diamonds, right? Think about it. You get the diamond and that's a good thing. But to get the diamond, the workers are either killed or they have such horrible living conditions and their wages are so low. So that's your complicity. But you have to do a little math. It's a couple steps away. There's a sweatshop. It's run by Disney. Oh, so for me to wear the Little Mermaid, those poor kids in Indonesia, they are beaten daily. And then I have to do the math in my head and say, is it worth it? And this leads to that. Not so with weapons systems. It's not just that some U.S. company is banking the money. We are not selling them a water filtration system and then being asked to deal with the moral implications of turning a profit from a barbaric regime. We are literally selling them the means to their barbarism. They have killed people. Every American leader, except our president, says we should do something to punish them for killing people. And the president's argument is no, don't you understand? They might cancel the contract for weapons which allow them to kill people. It would be as if instead of those Indonesian child laborers giving us the Little Mermaid shirts, that U.S. manufacturers were selling them manacles and desks with built-in leg straps. Or it would be like our amoral, dishonest president was directly contradicting facts, ethics, and good sense, which actually, to make that case, that does not seem to require stats or fact checks or analogies.